Dear Santa Claus, have I been a good boy this year? I'm very curious, because the past few weeks, there have been some serious problems at home, and it seemed that I was the only one who knew what to do. I didn't want to do it. I knew it was wrong, but I had to. I just had to. My big brother Derek is at the hospital right now, sick as a dog. Nobody's quite sure if he'll live. But at least I know that I have some private time in a safe place where he can never pick on me again. Last time he did was on a snowy day. I begged and begged him to stop jumping up and down on my snowman, and to top it off, he swiped the carrot out of my hand and jammed it into his mouth. He said that he was just trying to get my attention because he found something amazing deep in the woods. Something beyond my wildest imagination. Out of curiosity, I followed him back into the woods. A jumble of trees and their long leafless branches that seemed to imitate reaching arms. The journey seemed to take hours, and the sky quickly got darker. I was about to yell at Derek and call him an idiot for not bringing a flashlight, but I've learned from experience to never start an argument with him. We stopped at a wide bare circle in the woods, where there were no trees, just one big piece of root protruding in the middle. Since it was so hard to see in the dim moonlight, it looked more like a hand with its bony fingers outstretched. Derek directed me to the root. He said it could grant wishes, and he could tell because when he first visited the area, he wished he knew the way back home. And when he first saw this root emerge from the ground, he just happened to know the way. It was like magic, he said. I squinted as I took a closer look at this thing, studying it. I thought maybe if we can pull it out, we'll keep it as a good luck charm. Derek told me he already tried that and it stuck there, but that didn't stop me. We both grabbed onto it, and with all of our strength, it popped out, along with a loud, sickening snap. The force nearly threw us on our backs, but the magic root was ours now. I held it tight in my hands and wished we knew the way back home. And just like Derek said, we did. I couldn't get over the worried expression from Mom, wondering where we were, but I thought for the first time it was worth it. Later that night, Derek and I kept the magic root under our bunk bed, the safest hiding spot for it, and hopped right into bed. Hours later, I was sound asleep in my bottom bunk until I felt something moving under my bed, like a jumping bean. My eyes shot open when it started making bumping noises. Lucky for Derek, he was a heavy sleeper. My curiosity faded when the moving and jumping stopped. I was too tired to check it out, so I fell back to sleep, back in peace, hearing nothing but the winter wind blowing outside, which soon sounded a little more like screaming, as if there was somebody out there, somebody in pain. Next day was Monday, and Derek and I were too busy with our Christmas wish list to finish our homework, until I had an idea. I took the magic root from under our bunk beds and squeezed it tight, wishing our homework was done automatically. We looked over our unfinished math problems. Nothing happened. I wished harder. Still nothing. Annoyed, Derek rudely grabbed the root from my hand, saying that we should forget about it. But he still had it in his hand when he went back to his wish list. And suddenly, before our very eyes, right in front of us, was a video game system. We both wanted to burst out in amazement, but we also wanted to make sure Mom wasn't around, so we quickly locked the bedroom door, hooked the system up, and started playing. We also kept the volume as low as we could. Using the multiplayer mode for Nebula Zapper, Derek started to get frustrated because my high score was now 4 times higher than his. When I won the next round, Derek finally lost his temper and stomped on his controller, over and over, until nothing remained but a pile of plastic and wires. Then there was a knock on the door. It was Mom wondering what was going on. I tried to hide the video game system as fast as I could, but Derek rushed for the door and unlocked it, and Mom came into the room. Derek pointed at me, saying that I broke one of his video games. And Mom believed it. She even found our magic root and threw it in the trash. As usual, I didn't get a say in any of it. I was grounded from video games for the rest of the week, even when Derek took the route back out when Mom wasn't looking, and tried wishing again. It didn't work, causing him to stay mad a little longer. I still had trouble sleeping that night, but this time, I was wide awake and ready when the moving and bumping came back from under the bed. I quickly grabbed a flashlight and crouched down to take a look. The magic root was jumping, up and down, hitting the bed from beneath as if it were alive. I reached out and took the root by the stump, and the long, skinny ends of it curled up like fingers. I was going to wake up Derek and tell him about this, but before I could ponder anymore, the other end of the root bent down, and the fingers wrapped themselves around my wrist, grabbing me tighter and tighter by the second. The tips dug into my flesh. With intolerable pain, I screamed at the top of my lungs, causing Derek to wake up. My mom must have heard me too, because she scrambled into the room with a handgun. She flipped on the light. I was going to show her the root that wouldn't let go of me, but it was gone. I glanced down to the floor around the room to see where it went. It just wasn't there. I explained to Mom all that happened, where Derek found the magic root, its ability to grant wishes, and now it seemed to have a will of its own. Of course, Mom didn't believe me. She just scolded and lectured me, not only for wandering off in the woods last evening, not only breaking one of Derek's favorite video games, but now making up stories about a magic good luck charm. Good luck? Yeah, right, I thought. Soon enough, I was back in bed with tears running down my face. Hopefully I could still sit right tomorrow. The moving and bumping stopped, but the harsh wind outside still bothered me. As I was slowly drifting off to sleep, the whistling of the wind turned into screaming again. This time, whoever was out there sounded angry. Give it back. Give it back. Give it back. Shivering with fear, I pulled my covers up to my chin and placed my pillow over my head, wishing the screams would go away. Tuesday afternoon. I was lying down on the sofa looking up at the ceiling, examining the cracks. Dr. Blankenship, the child psychologist whom Mom called up, could tell I was not pleased having him here. Sitting on the chair, taking notes and scratching his beard now and then, he asked me if I was having any problems at school, or that my behavior was due to sibling rivalry with Derek. I shook my head and kept telling him about the magic root, and the fact that it really can grant wishes, and how it tried to hurt me last night. Feeling anxious, I rushed upstairs to the bedroom and found the root under the bed, right where it shouldn't have been, and showed it to Dr. Blankenship. I squeezed it tight, closed my eyes, and tried to concentrate. I wished that Dr. Blankenship would disappear. Nothing happened. He was still sitting there, giving me a stern look. I wished for $1,000. Nothing. World peace. Nothing. Free ice cream. Still nothing. With a scowl of frustration, I repeatedly banged the root against the wall and threw it on the floor. I jumped up and down on it, demanding it to work. I then noticed that my heart was beating very heavily, wondering why the root wasn't doing anything. Dr. Blankenship looked down at his notebook with a confused expression. He jotted down extra notes regarding what a fool I had just made of myself. I didn't want to eat my dinner that evening. I just looked down at my spaghetti, poking at it with my fork. When Derek's cup was empty, he took mine and slipped up all my hot chocolate. You could have just asked for a refill, jerk, I thought. I hoped maybe skipping to dessert might clear me up a bit, but Derek impatiently took both of our chocolate bars and shoved them into his mouth, wrappers and all. My fury began to build up as he laughed with a mouthful. That's it, I screamed in my mind. I'm not gonna take this anymore. I sprinted to Derek's side of the table and punched him right in the stomach as hard as I could. Derek fell out of his chair and landed hard on his shoulder, curled into a ball and let out a muffled scream of agony, but I didn't stop there. I kicked his back again and again before he had a chance to fight back. Even when Mom came into the kitchen to break up the fight, I didn't even glance at her. I gave Derek one last kick, then scrambled upstairs. I could hear Mom calling me to come back down and apologize, but I just went into the bedroom and locked the door. And a pitch black solitude. I leaned against the wall facing the door and sat down on the rug, giving myself some time to calm down, taking deep breaths, relieved that I finally gotten my revenge. Drowning in my thoughts, I almost didn't notice how cold it was in this room. It was freezing cold. I turned to the window and saw that it was pried open. I stood up and closed it, wrapped my arms around myself to stay warm. Suddenly the wind was back. Only this time, it sounded like it was inside the room, right behind me. I slowly turned around, and what I saw in the dim moonlight, right in front of me, was a tall, skinny figure in a long, dusty old cloak, partially caked with dirt. I could still see the fading snowflake pattern on the collar and sleeves. It looked like an ancient. The pointy hood was down, so I couldn't see his face, but soft, eerie moans trailed off from the hood. Where is it? Where is it? I was standing stiff, trembling in fear. My throat was so dry I couldn't even whisper. I just shook my head as if to say, I don't know. The old sorcerer raised a thin, bony hand and pulled back the hood, revealing a bare skull with empty eye sockets and coal-black teeth. The jaws moved up and down. The black teeth clicked as it spoke again. Where is it? Where is it? I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. In horror, I just stared straight ahead, watching as that sorcerer raised his other arm, revealing a cracked stump where a hand used to be. He used his other hand to point to the stump. This time he screamed, "Where is it?" The jaw nearly unhinged itself. Just then, more bumping noises, a little louder than before. Finally, I caught my senses. I took a flashlight and looked under the bed. There was the root, jumping and squirming around. I reached out and pulled it out again. Even without eyes, it was like the sorcerer could see what I was holding, which I then realized was his hand, not a root, his hand. There it is, he whispered. There it is. The fingers were curling up again as the sorcerer came closer to reclaim what rightfully belonged to him. Suddenly, we both heard a pounding on the door. It was Derek coming to fight me back. "Let me in," he shouted. "Let me in, you idiot!" With that wish, the door swung open, filling the room with light from the hallway. With fury in his eyes, Derek stomped into the bedroom, ready to teach me a lesson, but stopped when he caught sight of the skeleton in the cloak and its empty eye socket staring down at him. Whimpering with fear, Derek quickly swiped away the hand and squeezed it, trying to wish the sorcerer away, but he still stood there, giving Derek that same look. He wished again. Nothing happened. Scared and confused, Derek dropped the hand on the floor, giving the sorcerer a chance to pick it up and place it back on his stump. The two pieces connected, making a sickening click sound. Poor Derek stood stiff, wondering what was going on. And it was at that moment I finally understood the method of his sorcerer's magic. He grants wishes individually. He takes turns. Derek already used his magic to open the door, and it won't work for him again unless someone else makes a wish. So that means it's my turn now, I thought. And the sorcerer knew it too. He turned to me, patiently waiting for me to make one last wish before he goes. With a smile on my face, I knew exactly what I wanted. All I wished for was joy and peace. And with that, the sorcerer opened the window, dissolved into a mist, and blew away into the cold, silent night, leaving a soft whisper in the wind. Thank you. The doctors couldn't figure out how, but Derek was soon down with extreme hypothermia. He can't seem to get warm even by a fire. His skin was now a cold shade of blue. He's getting short of breath and coughing blood every now and then. Mom pleaded me for the truth about what happened and what brought Derek to such a poor state. Well, like a good boy should, I told her the truth. She still didn't believe me. She even called the doctors on me and had them take me away like I was some kind of a crazy person or something. But it's the truth, Santa, I swear. If there really is a jolly fat man at the North Pole with elves and flying reindeer, then there sure as heck can be wish-granting sorcerers. On the other hand, I guess I did get my joy and peace as promised. Sitting back in my own little room, where I'll never have to worry about Derek again. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas too. Sincerely, Jimmy. Oh, P.S. Also, Santa, can you bring me a pocket knife? You know, so I can get out of this straitjacket?